We move away from Phillip Island 5 weeks ago in Australia for our first race here in Europe. Welcome to the Algarve International Circuit for round 2 of the 2025 World Superbikes. It's the Portuguese World Superbike round. Hello everybody and welcome to Portimao. And unfortunately, we start with a session delayed due to track conditions down at Turn 1. Now, a couple of years ago, when we were here for Formula 1, we had a similar situation down there at the first corner and at the last corner where a drain cover came loose. So at the moment, there is a possibility that there's a drain cover loose. We will make sure we know what's happening as soon as we do. But welcome to live coverage of practice here on JB Motorsports 2 and on Twitch, and delayed on the main JB Motorsports. How it's going to work this weekend? Practice 1, 2 and 3 in the warm-up live here on JB Motorsports 2, and then the Superpole Race 1, the Superpole Race and Race 2 will be live on JB Motorsports. If you watch us on Twitch, it's all live throughout the weekend. There will be a slight change there if you're watching on Twitch. We will have to end coverage 5 minutes early of practice 2 later on to get to MotoGP. Those watching on JB Motorsports 2 and on Twitch, on JB Motorsports later will not see a problem. Pit lane will open in 3 minutes and 20 seconds time, we've been told by race control. As you can see, we've also got our rider tracker back this weekend after it was absent in Australia. Let's see how good it is actually when we get started. Meantime, let's head down to TNT Sports for all of the action. That was the grid from the Australian round of the championship. Let's get ready then for the Portuguese World Superbike race.
Following a medical check with Monica Lazzarotti in the medical centre here on Thursday. So back on track after suffering the fracture in his foot at Phillip Island. And this is the problem, isn't it? It's been a big problem for Honda because Vieje, but particularly Lecuona, they've just been blighted by injuries over the last 2 or 3 years. And how can you possibly develop a bike properly if you don't have consistency in the fitness of your riders? And there's the good news. The pit lane will open a little bit later than expected in just under 3 minutes from now. But hopefully for Honda, some improved fortune this year. And we keep saying it every year, don't we? When are Honda going to come good?
Yeah, we were lucky to have Ika here because that fracture was quite an awkward one. And talking about foot fractures, we've got to talk about Jonathan Rea, obviously. I believe he may be here this weekend, which will be great to see Jonathan as we do switch to that subject, because we've got the replacement rider, Jason O'Halloran, on the bike this weekend, the Australian. So we look forward to seeing the British Superbike rider and how he fares. He's got a lot to do. There's a lot of testing to be done. I was talking to Paul Denning yesterday, and he's got a busy schedule, has this man. It was supposed to be Augusto Fernandez, but Augusto Fernandez got the call up because of Miguel Oliveira's injury in MotoGP, and he's going to be racing this weekend in America to step in there on the Petronas team, isn't it? Sorry, the Pramac team.
Yes, of course. Oliveira wiped out the other day in Argentina, wasn't he, by Fermin Aldeguer in that collision they had there at the Grand Prix. O'Halloran, he's just done one start, would you believe, in World Superbikes before, in a Red Bull Honda back in 2018. And it's a mix. He knows all the elements. He knows the track. He knows the team quite well. He knows the bike. But he's been testing a lot on a Yamaha R1 for his endurance team, the Yacht endurance team. Yamaha Austria, of course, one of the very best teams in world endurance. And coverage of that starting with the Le Mans 24 Hours just a few weeks away now, 3 weeks away. So watch out for that here on TNT and on Discovery Plus. But he's gone from Bridgestone tyres with all his testing on the endurance bike to the Pirelli tyres here. Then he's got to go back again. So a lot of adaptation for Jason O'Halloran over the next few weeks. And Ryan Vickers, what a great start for Ryan as well, having joined the Moto Corsa team, taking the place of Michael Ruben Rinaldi, who's now on a Yamaha in World Supersport. We'll see him qualifying later on. And Ryan even moving to Italy to be closer to the team. That's how committed he is this year.
Absolutely. And it was 3-point scoring positions that he had in Australia. There were 13th in race 1 and 2 15ths in the Superpole race and second race. So Ryan Vickers off to a flying start on his Ducati, and a flying start as well for this man, Andrea Locatelli. Since he's changed chief engineers, like you say, like a few riders have this year, we'll probably get into that a little bit later, from Andrew Pitt last year when Jonathan Rea took over on the other side of the garage. Andrew Pitt inherited and Jonathan Rea inherited Andrew, but that's all changed as well last minute. So it's there's a lot of changes going on, isn't with the chief engineers as well as.
Yeah, Tom O'Kane with Locatelli. And don't forget, Locatelli, the highest placed non-Ducati rider in the championship. So it's almost like a win at the moment after the Ducati domination of Australia. And like you say, of course, lots of changes. Sam Lowe is one of those riders who's changed as well. That male Mark VDS now with Gorka Segura, who was previously working with Vierge at Honda. And Gorka also knows Leon Camillo well because he used to work with him at Honda. So a good team spirit down there at Mark VDS. Here we go then. The green light is on. And after a few track issues down at turn 1, we're underway. Tito Rabat was first out there.
Yep, Tito Rabat goes out, and we're underway then for the session. And the rider tracker looks like it is actually working, which is great news indeed. So we're underway then for the first practice session, round 2 of 12. We've got the SC1 and SC2 tyres for the front and the rear. We've got the SC0 and SC1 tyres in operation here. 6 left-hand turns, 9 right, 15 in total, 4.592 kilometre circuits. We have got intermediate and rain tyres if it is needed, as we have had a couple of interesting situations happen over the past few weekends here. Yowie Montella, Javier Verhey, Sam Lowe's, Alex Lowe's, Michael van der Mark going out there, Top Rat Razgaliolu as well, just going to be pulling out of pit lane. Garrett Gerloff going out. And there is the 19 of Avio Bautista, who's had some flack on social media. He's coming this weekend with a new hairstyle, a unicorn rainbow at the back of his head as well, and negative comments on social media from a group of idiots. Personally, I think it looks fantastic. Rock on is what I put on social media as well. Pit stop intervention time is 1 minute and 35 seconds, we've been told. There's Chaz Davis as well, the Ducati rider coach, with a Black Magic camera rig set up. He's going to be finding some things. I think like he's filming a documentary of some kind. It looks absolutely fantastic. 45 minutes then is this first free practice session. Nico Bulliger, leader of the championship after winning 3 races in a row in Australia. How on earth has he done that? How on earth are we even going to be witnessing sheer brilliance? Let me just change the... Is that the right one? Yes, it is. Let's just change the filters, shall we, as well, so that we can actually see the track colours. So hit defaults. Is it the brightness? Yes, it is. There we go. Just so that we can see the numbers a bit clearer out here. There we go. It'll take time to get used to it, but at least we have a riding tracker, which we didn't have back in Australia. Michael van der Mark, 32 years old, now battling as well out there with Top Rat Razgaliolu as he comes over the line. Now, apparently Top Rat's in the pit lane, but he is very much not. He is out there on the circuit. Is his rider tracker working in towards turn 1? No, I can't see it working there. Okay. Well, Top Rat is on pit out. Yowie Montella in the Ducati, 25 years old. First race was back, of course, in Australia a few weeks ago. We shall see how he's going to work out. First time we've hit Europe, and what the World Superbikes now becomes really a European Championship. Next time out, the WCR Championship takes over. Many people ask why we're not covering Supersport this year. Well, it's the final year of Supersport, so we did think it would be right to add it to our schedule, with it being the last year, and then next year have to drop it. So we've left World Supersport, and we will have WCR. In fact, number 14, Mallory Dobbs, will be joining me in the commentary box for MotoGP this weekend. And that'll be on the JB Motorsports main channel for the Grand Prix on Sunday. So Mallory Dobbs will be in the comms box with us. And hopefully over this weekend we'll have JT and maybe even Lizzie Whitmore. She's available to hop into the commentary box. We're trying to get Maddie in as well, but she's very busy writing her own memoir, apparently. That's going to be fun to read. We've seen excerpts coming through. So gap looks okay at the moment between Top Rat. Sam Lowe's at the moment is fastest on a 142.042. 32.2 first sector, 102.6, 124.045 third sector. So times they do be a changing with the 23 riders in total. Town Mackenzie in 10th now, 8th best time. Computers predicting him. Tito Rabat, who's in 14th. Computers predicting him to go 10th. Daniel Petrucci Petrux goes third, 1:42.215. Here's Dominic Agata watching on just at the top of the circuit now before that's into Samson before coming over Craig Jones at turn 9. 40 minutes to go then of this session for the first practice of the World Superbikes here over the mountain section down through Craig Jones into turn 9. Last year we got the flyover. It's by one of our images actually for this weekend, the jump over the top. I'd love to see if we'll have that again at some point. Javier Verhey from Spain in the Honda HRC squad, 27 years old. Maybe back at Aragon in 2022. He's over the top of the hill now. Had a couple of stints in MotoGP in the Premier class. Scott Reddy's gone second. Nico Bulliger there to the top as Top Rat comes in because his transponder is not working. So Top Rat Rascaloni, unfortunately, having issues there. Now he's saying it's pit out, but he's just come into the pit lane. So the transponder is incorrect out there on the monitor. Let's pass it back to TNT.
To check that the gravel's not gone into the bike anywhere. But it's not an ideal start. We're on board with him into turn 1. Look at that, the rear comes up. You can even see it on the onboard camera, looking behind him as well, because he knows that Vandermark is behind, because they've got team orders there to get up to speed together. So he was just making sure he was out of the way of Vandermark. Not too much into the gravel there, no problem at all. But there could be an initial problem with his bike, just getting it checked out. Yeah, and this is him. He's going wide again, isn't he? I can't see where that is. That's turn 3, is it? I think the hairpin, yeah. So anyway, not the ideal start for the world champ.
Michael Vandermark did a very good job not to follow his teammate straight off the track there. We've seen that before, haven't we? When a car or a bike, they're following their teammate in a practice session and one of them goes off and the other one follows them into the gravel. And if you weren't with us at the top of the session, you might not have heard me talking about what happened in Australia. So he was and someone's off. That's one of the Motor X Yamaha's Tito about. You can see the number 53 there on the swing arm, and of course in the traditional place as well on the front of the bike. And that is a place we often see incidents at turn 8. Alvaro Batista's had a few crashes through here in testing over the last year or two. You're coming out of 7 and you're getting ready to climb the rise over towards the spectacular Craig Jones corner, and it looks as though he's lost the front into turn 8. Not ideal, he's fine, the bike looked okay, but of course he's losing practice time to get the bike ready for the 3 races this weekend. Remy Gardner pushing on, and again, Yamaha are trying to keep him as quiet as possible, but he's very outspoken, just as his dad Wayne was and is. But he needs and wants more power, James, and there's not really a substitute for power, is there?
No, especially in this position here, coming out the final corner over the hill here at Portimao. It is horsepower city. When you come over that crest there, you need it to fire down the straight. And then obviously the tight and twisty stuff around here, it's not too bad because the R1's chassis has always been pretty good. Taz McKenzie on screen here on the MIE Honda. It was a pretty difficult weekend as well start. They had a test at the end of the season in Jerez with the new parts from the factory team, and he went nearly a second faster than he did on the old bike that he had. But it always develops, always moves on, and the bar always rises. And when he's come to the first round again, it seems like the MIE Honda team are on the back foot again, but fingers crossed they'll have some development through the season this year.
Yeah, and an uphill struggle for his teammate as well, Zakwan Zaidi, the Malaysian, the 29-year-old from Sanga, who you saw just a second ago. Who is Zakwan Zaidi? Well, those of you who follow bike racing closely will know he was champion in Japan in their superbike class 3 years ago, twice a Supersport champion over in Japan as well. That was Andrea Iannone we saw on the Patago 11 Ducati. He wanted extra support financially for that team and extra resources this year. Well, he's got it, so he's happy and had a really strong start to the season in Australia. Now let's have a look for the first time today at this Bimotor Kawasaki. The same engine they had last year, but a half steel frame, and I understand that's a lot more adjustable. You can tell us about that now, James. Nicolo Budiger right behind. This is going to be a very good example, actually, of the horsepower difference of the Ducati with a slipstream versus the Kawasaki engine without one. And there it is, candy from a baby as one Italian passes the other. We also hear that the 31 of Garrett Gerloff has a problem on his Kawasaki machine, and he's riding slowly at the moment in the middle part of the lap, so we might see a flash of green in a moment, coasting his way around in the middle part of the lap.
And that's 2 rounds in and 2 technical issues. You remember in Australia he had to pull off in that Super Bowl race as well. So yeah, the Texans not having much luck in the Pachetti Kawasaki camp at the minute. It was all promising, wasn't it, that Pachetti was going to get the factory support. but I'm not sure what the team are doing with the factory Kawasaki here as it is on the screen. This is him, number 31. And I'm sure the Texan's going to get a little bit frustrated by this if it carries on, because Australia was a disaster, you'd have to say.
Yes, and he's very, very hard on himself, Garrett Gerloff. He always seems to be on the highest of highs or the lowest of lows and not much in between. He is much happier, though, now in his personal life as his boss, Manuel Pacetti, looks on here on the left-hand side of your screen. Massive presentation they did that I went to in Reggio Emilia up in the north of Italy, where they are based. It was like being at the Oscars or something. All these massive round tables, a huge stage, and huge performance there for the Pacetti team launch.
That time cancelled as well. That's come through from the stewards for yellow flag at the 97, Javier Virge.
He's so far away, James, from his family, living in Andorra, and not just living in Andorra because he's got plenty of bike friends there, but the time difference as well. It must be so difficult to not be able to just phone your parents, phone your brothers, sisters, and his girlfriend as well over there in Texas. So Garrett Gerloff is actually going to be commuting now across the Atlantic for every round. But I guess you can do that, can't you, in a 12-round season? It's not quite as demanding as the MotoGP season, for example.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Greg. But it's a different existence for the Japanese, the Americans, the Australians, anybody that lives more than a 6 or 8 hour flight away, and you're not really able to go home and have that reset, like you say, with your family and friends, just to sit down and have that natural, normal conversations that you have in your native tongue as well, especially if you're riding in a team that doesn't speak your language as well. It can be quite isolating and quite lonely for those riders that are miles and miles and miles away from home. So I'm not surprised that is going home in between. I remember I was teammate to Colin Edwards, and Colin Edwards, he's from Texas as well. He would go back and forth every time, more or less, because he did appreciate the time with his family back there.
Yep, and 33 minutes to go. Petrak's coming up towards the line now as well. Should be on a good time. Goes fourth. So 1:41.310. He's 3/10 off exactly at the moment. So Nico Bulliger top, Adrian Bautista second, Alex Lowe's third, Daniel Pedrucci fourth, Michael van der Mark in fifth, Sam Lowe sixth, Javier Virge seventh, Andrea Locoletti in eighth, Yardi Montella in ninth, and Remy Gardner rounds out your top 10 at the moment. And at least we haven't had a red flag. Yeah, the session's going to go a bit longer than we expected. He'll end up at 10:30, so it is, I think it got a 10-minute delay? Yeah, about 10 to 15-minute delay. Replay coming on. This is Top Rat coming back out. Slams down the helmet, jumps on the BMW, and oops, has a little bit of a, pulls the brake, gets back off, says something, he's pointing to something on the dashboard, saying that something's wrong. Whether it was the brake or clutch or something, but he's gone right back into the garage. So the problems of Australia continuing for Top Rat Razgolioli, who's now at the moment he's only set one lap, but has not set a lap time on the board. Neither, however, has Andrea Iannone on the 29 bike, but he is in the first sector now, and the computer is predicting him to go into 9th place. Here is Aurelio Bautista, though, who is up by 0.299 of a second in that first split, so should be looking somewhat better. You can see the split sector times now on your monitor, and yeah, there is a better difference coming through with these 3 sectors, and now we understand what the problem is that we need to fix, and we're going to fix those shortly as they come over the line. Will there be a better time from Bautista? I think there would be. There has to be, surely, coming through. Bautista, 1:41.867, stays, therefore, in second.
The next number is their race number, which you can see here, 19 for Bautista, used to be number 1. Only the reigning world champion, though, is allowed to run number 1 if he or she wants to. They don't have to, but Top Rat is, although I don't think he ever will again, because he's quite superstitious and believes number 1 brings him bad luck. But for now, number 1 is on a BMW. And then those P icons next to the riders' numbers signify whether or not they are in the pit lane, and that will disappear automatically when they leave the pit lane. At the bottom of the screen, you can see their lap times, their individual sector times. Grey means nothing special. Orange, as you can see for Iannone here, for the individual sectors, and now the overall lap is his best of the session so far. And red for Budiger in this case at the moment, is an overall best. So the lap is split up into 4 sectors, and it is one of the longer laps on the calendar actually here in Portugal at just over 4.5 kilometres, 2.8 miles, and this is the Bimotor. I wonder what they do with those winglets, James, because that was a hot topic, wasn't it, over the winter? Do the wings move or do they not? The rider is not allowed to operate them, but they can move because they move on the production model. It was a lot of talking about that over the winter break, but whether they actually are moving, there's a little servo motor, and whether it works with the stresses and strains on the race bike compared to in a road or track situation, it's a very different matter.
Yeah, we've got a little break just coming up, as we've heard. And, I want to thank Marcel Juncker for his time yesterday. And after the break, I'll get into the technicals of the difference of the Bimotor compared to the Kawasaki. This is Perariba on the other side with Alex Lowe's as chief engineer. But yeah, as soon as we come back from the break, we'll get into that more in depth.
Yeah, nice one. For those of you who are with us on Discovery Plus, we will continue, and on TNT we'll be back in a few minutes.
Well, it looks like they can go break-free elsewhere, bar on TNT Sports. Isn't that always nice to see? But don't worry, we have thought about this, and we have an alternative angle to come through as we continue, because we can still play the audio, and hopefully, and I don't know if it will come through or not, but there should still be some audio to make us listen to what's happening out there at the moment. Yes, there is. Here we go. Oh, I haven't plugged it in. Ha! How stupid of me. How daft. Speaking of, it looks like the audio thing for that has actually disappeared. So that's a great start. Don't know how that's happened. Anyway, here we go. Let's listen now to the first session.
Unfortunate circumstance, really. Starting with JL's crash in Phillip Island. So the idea here is just to get Jason as comfy as we can, to represent the team and himself as well as we can. And then if we need him in Assen, he's in a better place to go better there.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So thanks very much for clearing that up, Paul. All the best for the weekend, and hopefully everything goes well, and we'll see Johnny back very soon.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah, very unfortunate, the injury to Jonathan Rea. We're missing him this weekend in Portimao. It's one where he's particularly well followed always as well, where there's a great number of fans that travel over. So, yeah, disappointing to be without Jonathan. Disappointing that the first choice of substitution didn't work out as well. That's going to count against Yamaha, because they had all the cards to be able to take advantage of that recent test to give Augusto some time on the bike. But as for the preparations and the return to fitness of Jonathan Rea, there's as much desire there as ever. Those who've been following on his vlogs on YouTube will see quite fascinating, actually, what training he can do and the way he's trying to get himself ready with diet and everything as well, in order to be back as soon as possible. So there's no lack of effort in the return for Jonathan Rea, but that was a very complicated and multi-fracture to the foot.
Yeah, I spoke to Johnny a few times since Phillip Island, and each time you speak to him, you can hear the motivation and the desire to be back on his bike and as fit as he can be and get himself back out there. But it's an...
Tom O'Kane here. This is free practice 1. And now we cut to the Bimotor by Kawasaki garage, and James Tozen in a few moments will go through the differences between the Bimotor and the Kawasaki chassis they had last year.
This is the same turn on, turn 4.
Really interesting. You can just hear Alex in the background still.
Pushing it through, yeah.
Because that's super.
It looks spectacular. It's like Cadwell Park for those of you
super slow.
I can hear Michael.
The Bimotor coming over that crest. Absolutely, looks wonderful, doesn't it? The bike. I'm really impressed by how the bike actually looks with that steel trellis frame on the top, and then the kind of conventional, more aluminium on the rear end where the pivot is, and they swing it. Let's see if we can hear what further things he's saying.
It's too loud. I'm actually hear Michael Hill in the background. Hello, Michael. Good morning.
Certainly the corners where he was pointing on the map, that is where.
Release the brake. Just think about going the gas in the rear. It's never planted. This is it. Follow my arm.
Yeah, just done
Yeah,
that,
great.
isn't it? Yeah.
I love it when the microphone can pick a few things up because, I can get a real understanding of what that rider's feeling. Alex Lowe's there, of what he's struggling with. As Ryan Vickers on the Ducati here. Let's see where he's 15th at the minute, only 1.8 off, so not a bad start for the British rider. But yeah, Alex Lowe's was saying it's not turning very well. So because it's not turning very well, he's forcing it to turn, and you need more lean angle. And more lean angle, you're on the more of the edge of the tyre, so the contact patch of the tyre gets less and less and less. So you're actually kind of making the problem even worse when you do that, because when you then tap the throttle on these bikes with over 200 brake horsepower, the initial tap, the tyre has no opportunity to find the initial tap of the grip, and then the tyre slides straight away. And then when the tyre slides, you're going sideways instead of forwards and driving off the corner. And especially here at Portimao with such undulation, if you lose that traction on the top of that hill there that you've just seen, then you're not driving down that hill like you need to, and then more importantly, you're not driving up the hills, and that's why you need the momentum here. So a lot to do for Pereira after that download of information.
What I do love as well, listening to Pereira, whether he's with Jonathan Ray, as he has been for so many years, Loris Baz prior to that, and now Alex Lowe's, he is so calm, isn't he? He can get very animated on the pit wall. Pereira is as aggressive, as ruthless, as passionate as they come. Used to be a rider himself, of course, but he's such a calm influence, isn't he, in the garage?
He is, and the really good engineers have to interpret what the riders just said then. That was a lot of things to think about for chief engineer with what Alex has just said, and not an easy one to combat and change for the better. They've just tested here as well, so I'm surprised that Alex's feeling is so far off. He didn't sound confident at all, did he, about the turning of that motorcycle underneath him. So it's back to the drawing board a little bit from Pereira, but Pereira is one of the greats, and what the greats do is give you what you need, not what you want most of the time. And that separates the good from the great, and that means that your development and your improvement in your lap times can improve so much quicker. If you just concentrate on one of the two main things, most of the time, the smaller ones that you're still complaining about can disappear.
This is Ike Lecuona on the Honda having a big moment there over the brow and down into the braking zone of turn one. He's busy back at home as well whenever he's got time. He's actually restoring with his own bare hands a 1988 BMW E30. So with that and his monumental collection of Lego, Ike Lecuona's a rather busy boy at the moment off the track, but he had his hands full with that Honda down into turn one, didn't he? So I think the Lego's going to have to be put to one side for a few weeks, James.
Well, he's just started with the building blocks of his performance this weekend here in Portugal as well. So it's
just about putting all the pieces together, isn't it?
Well, it's not child's play, is it?
Oh dear. Any more Lego-related jokes? Feel free to send them in. It's James M for Michael, James M Tosland, and Greg Haynes TV on X, or Twitter, of course, as it used to be known. And this is Jason O'Halloran. And I do love how so many more of the bikes now are integrating their colours into the winglets, because traditionally over the first few years of the wings appearing on these bikes, they were black, but the Ducatis have gone full red now. Blue ones on the front of the Pata Maxus Yamaha with their additional sponsorship for 2025. Jason's done a lot of testing, as I said before, with the Yacht Yamaha, the endurance bike recently, Cartagena and Valencia in Spain. He also went over to Rijeka as well, in Croatia, formerly, of course, home of what was then the Yugoslav Grand Prix back in the day. But as we said earlier, they're on Bridgestone tyres in endurance, and they're on Pirellis here in World Superbikes. And this is actually the first time today that Jason's ridden the bike with World Superbike spec electronics. But as he says, nothing to lose. He's just got to get the miles in and keep it clean if he can, and get as much data as possible for Yamaha. James said before that Jonathan Ray is set to be here this weekend, and I know Jason had a good telephone conversation with Jonathan Ray about the bike and the team and the package just a few days ago in the week leading up to this race. Redding, James, I had a good sit-down chat with him at the test here in January, and he said, I am a bit worried about when we come back here for this round, for round two, because he hasn't done any full race simulations. He and Vickers' teams did not come to the recent test here 2 weeks ago for budget reasons. They're obviously smaller teams, aren't they? These independent outfits. So Redding didn't do any full race simulations in January because he knew Australia was only going to be effectively 5 sprint races with the pit stop. So I think he's bracing himself for a bit of a tricky weekend here, Scott Redding, and we'll try and get in a race simulation in practice here today.
Yeah, and you can see that.
And that's another thing that you've got to really point out. Australia, with the Pirelli tyre issues that we had, it became different of a race weekend. It wasn't normal. We had 11 laps then changed and another 11 laps as well in total. So it was effectively 5 different races that we had to deal with. And this is going to be a very different kettle of fish. If you joined us for our coverage back in Australia 5 weeks ago, you'll know what we saw. And this is a replay now coming over the top of the hill with the 14 as well, just jumping over the brakes and really scraping it out. The front wheel getting completely loose out there as well. Well, back when he was in Moto 2, Sam Lowes, he lost the championship here by crashing at the top of Samson and lost out on the Moto 2 World Championship. So that was a disappointment. Here's Scott Redding now over the line. And does he improve on 12th? No, 1:42.097 was his last lap time as well. His best lap time, 1:42.032. So he's a fraction off. He's 1.1 seconds off of Bulliger's time, but it's still up there as well with what we need to be. Zakarin Zazadi as well, the Malaysian rider down in 21st position. Computer predicting him to go up a couple of positions. That's good news. Jason O'Halloran then in 22nd. 16th for Ike Lukanoa. The computer's predicting him to go into. There's a few more splits starting to come through, but it is Bulliger who's fastest at the moment, which is a good sign. And we've been adjusting the timing tower as we've gone. So we've got a race one, we've got a better situation because the timing tower has slightly changed since Australia. Not too much, just a few positions changing. So now when we're on this screen, you can still see the best lap time, the gap, sectors 1, 2 and 3, and their last lap time. And when we go full, you'll be able to see bike name, the laps they've completed, the speeds, the maximum speeds they've done over this race session as well. So just a reminder, free practice 1, 2 and 3. They don't count towards the rest of the weekend, but it's a good reminder. There'll be 45, 20-minute sessions, and then we'll go into a 10-minute Super Pole session to decide the running order events. Warm up tomorrow morning, or on Sunday morning before the Super Pole race. So then it will be race 2, and remember, the grid set for race 1 and the Super Pole race coming up as well. It's going to be an interesting weekend here as we properly kickstart. Australia felt very weird. We didn't have the rider tracker. JT stepped into the booth as well, and everyone was like, well, Australia's superbikes don't really count, which is weird because it's world superbikes, but we mainly race in Europe. So yeah, it's bizarre. Over the line then for Bassini, and goes up into 11th, 1:41.980. Sam Lowes is in the 4th sector, coming up towards the line now. Here he is in the number 14, and comes across the line. Does he stay in 7th position? Yes, he does. New best time though, it's a 1:41 out there, 6:17. Last time that was a 1:41.909. I read the current, not the last lap. 13 minutes as well. Oh, and TNT go to another ad break, which means it's time for me to be quiet, and we'll hand back down to the world feed.
And he's going to miss out on probably about 16, 17 laps in this session, and that's going to put him behind the curve compared to where he wants to be up against the Ducatis. And we just saw a glimpse of Sam Lowes there coming through. Sam up there in 7th. We've got Petrucci inside the top 5, Iannone, Bautista and Bulliger inside the top 3 spots right now. So we know the Ducati's going to be strong here again this weekend. Toprak can't afford to give them a head start.
Track's starting to get a little busier now. Niccolo Bulliger and Alvaro Bautista currently lead in FP1 with 17.5 minutes remaining. They're both making their way round to start their first flying lap of this latest stint. Iannone, Alex Lowes and Danilo Petrucci still in their pit box, as you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. Michael van der Mark is out there and running, as are Sam Lowes, Xavi Vierque, Andrea Locatelli, and Jari Montella rounds out your top 10. He's currently in pit lane. As far as FP1 is concerned, obviously the main story has been Toprak Razgatlioglu not being able to make his way out onto track. But also the strong performance of Alvaro Bautista, you'd have to say, going well thus far.
Yeah, important for Alvaro to show that he's got that speed here in Portimao as well. Another circuit where we've seen him have a lot of success. The big thing for Alvaro is he needs to make sure he's able to come through another race weekend without giving himself any holes to dig himself out of. Phillip Island was a little bit strange because the Super Pole race put himself in a difficult position, ended up costing him points in that race, cost him a little bit of speed at the start of race 2 as well. But his speed...
It did. It really did. As you now take a look at Bautista out there on the screen, we've got our usual positions back up here in the booth. Bautista looking really strong. I don't know why it keeps fading. It should do the little stinger, but it's not doing the stinger. I'm annoyed. Bautista over the line, second fastest. Half a second down on Bulliger's time. It's a 1:40.9. So it's a 1:41.487 on that lap time as well. So way off the pace. 15:38 to go of this first session. So they fly it through. Typical that MotoGP can uninterrupted, but for some reason TNT for the Superbikes can't. Second race, of course, since it moved over from Eurosport to TNT Sports. Now on the third channel to come through. Bautista is fastest in that first sector. As you can see, 0.153 up. Computers predicting him to go first. Sofagulu now coming through at the top. Just keeping it nice and calm. Now, back out onto the circuit. Alex Lowe's coming now on the Bitmotor KB 9988 Ramoni. The Rimini bike as well. So much faster than what we've seen in previous years. They really have stepped it up a bit. Difficult in Australia, but Sam was right there battling. Alex then was battling with Sam. We had the brothers battling quite a lot. We're getting that a lot in motorcycle racing this year, of course. Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez. Don't like the pit exit here. Now it just drifts on right into the racing line at turn 1. They can cut back into the apex, which they thankfully have done. But it always worries me, that pit exit here at turn 1. Now we filter into the inside line at turn 2. They've changed it after a few harrowing moments in MotoGP. Can't wait until we come here for MotoGP in a couple of weeks' time here for the Portuguese Grand Prix. Nice to have him back. Wish Formula 1 still came to Portimao for the Grand Prix. It is such an amazing circuit. And Formula 1 here always delivered quite entertaining races. Came here twice. 2020 and 2021 for the Portuguese Grand Prix. And yeah, then we came here a couple of times actually, didn't we, for MotoGP. We had the Portuguese Grand Prix, the Algarve Grand Prix. Okay, we've come here a couple of times actually to save us from cancellation races. So far, so good in 2025. Whether or not Kazakhstan will happen, it's always on the radar, isn't it? We'll find out later, by the way, later on with MotoGP, their first session coming up later. They're coming through. Something flew in my mouth. Petrux out of the last corner, down. It's a 7-story drop out that final corner. Over the line. And stays 5th, 1:41.338. Tyres now will be starting to wear off. Jari Montella, brilliant lap time to shoot up into 5th, up into 3rd position. A 1:41.099. 10th off of what Bullock has done. That's brilliant. Well done. That's more the lap times we like to see. Also, don't worry, when we do have a guest in the commentary box, you'll still be able to see the rider tracker. We've created a new screen alongside, so you're not going to be without. So don't worry, anybody. It's all going to be good. It's going to work out with the gap screen as well. Sam Lowe still, we're riding with him. Coming through into Sampson. Over the top of the hill. Down into Craig Jones. He's here, he downshifted over the jump. Beautiful sunshine conditions here so far. That's what we like to see. Really trailing in hard. Yeah, that's more like it. A much better run of situations right now. There's a few changing moments again. go. Into the last corners. Turn 16. You dropped 7 stories. It's an incredible drop. Hopefully we're going to witness now. Now the TV angle that we're watching just makes it seem flat, but the elevation change is ridiculous. It is like a roller coaster, this track. Samlo's over the line. It's a 1:41.790. 8/10 off, Winston in 5th. Now, Avio Bautista was fastest sectors 1 and 2, but he's down sectors 3 and 4. So stay out, I believe, is coming to pit lane. Not too sure actually on that one. Pit in for a few of them. Pit out lap for Dominic Agata, Ryan Vickers out there too. So they're out on they're coming back out for a second run for Ryan Vickers. Here is Nicola Bulliger down into turn 5 and 6 to hairpin. We use the same layout as MotoGP, so the times are always interesting to be representative, the same as what it was back in Australia at Phillip Island. Let's have a replay. This is Bulliger down to turn 1 on the brakes, and the rear just snapping on him. It was getting that just twitch in the back. Turned very cold in the commentary box. Maybe I've chosen the wrong clothes. I might need to stick a hoodie on, but we've turned the heater on. Bulliger is top, 1:49.77, and has just got the fastest first sector as well. So has Bautista. Yami Monrella, though, at the moment, is up, and Ianoni's up by 2.5 tenths of a second. Wow! Ianoni in that first sector is absolutely alive. Petrux the 1:41.572. Here's Montella. Stays in 3rd, but closes that gap ever so slightly. So we're seeing brilliant first sectors from everybody, but very poor sector 2 and 3. Look at Bautista, backed off, lost 3 seconds. There's Marco Banbo, the team manager at Barry Spark Racing. Can't wait until we're at Donington later on in the year. Trackside coverage for the British motorcycle round of Superbikes. Iannoni stays 4th, 4/10 of a second off of Bulliger's time at the moment, which is a 1:49.77. So the session continuing with 8 minutes to go, and it is getting quite entertaining. Let's switch it back to TNT.
Seem to be losing a lot of time at the moment in sector 3, which is the run down from turn 11 down through 12, 13. It is the highest point of the circuit, so I don't know whether it's got windy outside. We're obviously inside the commentary box, can't see any flags from where we are right now, but it can be a problem here with the high point of the track that the wind can cause some issues. Iannoni 2 tenths inside Bulliger after sector 1, but we've seen this sort of pace over the last few laps, and then it tails off in 3. So let's see whether anyone can maintain that pace. This is sector 3 for Montella. He comes through the beam now into the 4th and final sector through 14, and it might look flat on the TV, but believe you me, it goes over a brow. You can't see where it track goes, it just drops down and into the start finish. It's wonderful here.
Nice to see the number 5 on a superbike as well. That's another pub quiz question. How many number 5s can you name in the past? I think I can name 3 off the top of my head, but again, on the socials, if anybody's knowing their history of superbikes, number 5s, let's see how you get on.
And don't forget that other question that you posed to us as well at the top of the broadcast. You'll have to come back to that one in a minute, James, with the answer in terms of the treble race wins we've had so far after Bulliger did that in Australia 5 weeks ago. You can see Iannoni's time at the bottom of the screen. Yes, it's happened again. It's gone grey in sector 3. Look, he was overall best in sector 1.
Losing out time.
Red. Personal best sector 2, orange, but he's lost time in sector 3. So here he is. This is not going to be an improvement.
And if you're struggling on who the 5 are who's done a treble, something might just spark your memory in some way. If you're struggling with the last one that I was.
I know who they are, but I'm going to leave it for a minute. I'll let you reveal that in a moment. I mean, the top 3 are quite obvious, aren't they, with the Titanic trio as they've been dubbed in recent years.
Bautista,
it's more recently than you may
Petrux.
imagine. Just think back to the 2024 season and one of those races one of those rounds we had in Italy. I'll say no more than that. I don't know exactly. James is pointing at his team names here. You can explain why you're proud of that little pun there.
No, I don't want to give too much away, but I'll give something away. But
the keyword was spark. The keyword was spark.
6 minutes to go here in FP1, and it is looking a little bit like a Ducati Cup again. Let's hope there's no more complaints.
Ducati top 4.
As long as the racing's good, we don't mind, do we?
Well, I mean, James, sorry to butt in, but how important is this for the championship and for this race weekend? Toprak has missed the entire session here so far.
Yeah,
disaster.
again.
The whole 40 minutes so far, he's not got a single lap in.
Yeah, absolute disaster.
Not good.
You know, to have these kind of technical issues when you've had all day of setting up. Obviously, you're not able to go out on track just to test things. From Australia, there were complications, and obviously they've ran through to this round. But that will really, really frustrate the world champion that they've not been able to rectify. Obviously, we're not sure if it's the same problem, but it doesn't really matter, is it? You shouldn't have any problems when you roll out onto the track on FP2 and give the best in the world a 45-minute head start.
Especially when they've just had a test here as well, a week or so ago. It seems really puzzling there. I can't really quite imagine what's gone wrong, but we do reckon it's brakes because he went straight off down at turn 1. He tried to get back on the bike in the pits and tried the front brake. He got straight back off the bike. They pushed it into the garage and down went the garage.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Bautista Montella is still up in third place. That's great stuff. Iannone, Alex Lowe's is 5th, and it's Petrucci, Van der Mark as we see the Go 11 team. Sam Lowe's is 8th, Bassani is 9th. So both of the Bimotors inside the top 9 at the moment, and Xavi Vierge is in that 10th place. Now, what about Pirelli and the news that they are going to be supplying MotoGP when the new rules come in for 2027? Yeah. That's hugely significant and makes Toprak Razgatlioglu even more attractive a proposition for a MotoGP team.
It does. It's going to be really interesting to see what the decision he makes for his future. It's not an easy one, it's not a simple one. There are many, many factors that you have to consider about going to a new school. This is where he's grown up, this is where his family and his friends are, and there's a certain atmosphere in a superbike paddock that is very, very different to the MotoGP one. I'm not saying it's better or worse in so many ways, but you know, MotoGP is the flagship championship. It is the Formula One of racing, and if you want to consider your best, that you are the best rider and contend against the best, you've got to go head-to-head with Marc Marquez. Currently, that's how it stands. And anybody in World Superbikes or any form of motorcycle racing, if you have that desire to try and put yourself toe-to-toe with the best in the world, you've got to go. But you've also got to have the right opportunity, because as we've seen, if you're not on a Ducati at the minute, it's very, very difficult to be competitive.
Right, finally, BMW coming alive in the last 5 minutes. Michael van der Mark with a good lap and a good toe there from Vierge has moved up into 3rd place, but Vickers has crashed. And this is turn 13 up at the top of the hill. It looks as though it's been a relatively harmless one. It hasn't even broken either of the winglets off the front of the bike. The Italian flag on your left, the Union Jack on the right.
It's not gone down on the left, which he should have done, because it is a left-hand corner. I can't see any damage at all. So is it a crash or is it a technical issue? Has he just slowed down? I'm not too sure, but I think you would have seen some damage, like you say, Greg, on the left-hand side if he'd have gone down.
So
it's flashed up on the timing screen as a crash. I don't know whether he's just run into the gravel and had a very, very light, almost dropped the bike. But like you say, I can't see any damage either on either side of that bike. But it definitely came up on the screen saying crashed, and that would have been reported by the marshals over there at turn 13. So hopefully a replay. He will need to pit though. The rules here are you can rejoin after a crash, but you do need to pit. In a race you can carry on, but in practice or qualifying you have to pit at the end of that lap. But that's promising then for Van der Mark, at least, with Toprak out of action and the problems. At least one BMW has moved up into 3rd place.
Interesting to see.
Yeah, and Supersport Pit Lane's going to open at 40 minutes past the hour. If anybody, 11:40 local time and UK time, same time zone here. Finally, that's working. Final 2.5 minutes then of the first practice session for the World Superbikes here at Portimao, the Algarve International Circuit. Over the line then. Let's see what Michael van der Mark's going to do. Carrying BMW at the moment with no lap time from Toprak Razgatlioglu, and it is 3rd place for van der Mark. Better time there, 1:41.219. Tad McKenzie up to 14th. 1:42.167, stunner of a lap time there. That's more like it to come through. You can see the rider tracker showing where everybody is on the circuit. They're quite congested down in towards turn 5 at the hairpin, turn 3 at Lagos, then turn 4 Luco, down into turn 5 hairpin as well. So we'll get you all the names throughout the weekend as the action rumbles on. Practice 2 coming your way later on at 3 o'clock local time. And 3 o'clock in the UK, I suppose. And all the links are ready. And if you're watching live on JB Motorsports 2, you'll be redirected. If you're on Twitch, you don't need to do anything this weekend. It's a nice weekend. We've also got NASCAR this evening on JB Motorsports and Twitch. The Trucks Series from Martinsville, with the radio commentary taking you through that one. Myself and Jack taking you through Xfinity tomorrow. And then on Cup Day, JT and Jack's got stage 1. I'm back for stage 2 and stage 3. And in MotoGP's Grand Prix coverage on Sunday, Mallory Dobbs joins myself and Megan up in the commentary box as she's testing over in Valencia at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo ahead of the WCR Championship starting in a few weeks' time. Montella over the line, still on 141.605. It's going to be quite a fun race weekend, actually. Oh, and Montella runs it wide at turn 1. 30 seconds left until that flag comes out. It'll tick down quite quick. We're all getting a bit of a break now. It's a weird day. It's all quite evening orientated from 3 o'clock onwards. 13, 12, 11, 10. And the checkered flag ready to come out. And the first session of the World Superbikes will conclude with the flag out now. So who's got your best time? Bullaga not improving. Bautista up 0.55. 10th place predicted for Remy Gardner. I haven't mentioned him much in this session. Aki looking at predicting 17th at the moment. Few come back into the pit lane as the racing action continues. On board with Bullaga. Love hearing these motorcycles. Of course, if you wanted, you can go and buy this one straight out. Watch it win on a weekend, buy it on the Monday. That's how this championship operates. It's a road-going series. Bullaga looking very fast over, down through the last corner. Rumble up towards the line, and what's your opening gambit going to be? It is 141. Bautista's lost time as well in that last sector, 142. No one improving. And the flag out for the majority of the riders. Andrea Locoletti and Garrett Gerloff, the two haven't taken it. Top Rack was in the pit lane. Best lap time though for Sam Lowes. Puts himself up to 10th place. 141.613. Lap time cancelled for the 21 for a yellow flag at turn 13, we're being told by the stewards. Don't know why it hasn't popped up on the below message, but it did. So the flag comes out, driver tracker goes dead. Bullaga, Bautista and Axel Bassini in top third. So not quite a Ducati Cup at the moment. In fact, it's quite close between the entire of that top four. 72 thousandths of a second separate them. Maybe Australia was a blip, but the man who dominated with the triple continues on here in Portimao. Bullaga, a 1:49.77, much better of a lap time. Let's hand it over to TNT Sports.
Alvaro Bautista's confirmation of second place. But yes, the Hondas, they're doing okay, aren't they? But they're just not able just to bridge the extra couple of tenths that they need to start challenging for podiums. They look consistently in the top 10, but to get onto the podium at the minute for Honda seems to be pretty impossible. So they've got a lot of work to do. Nicola Bullaga there once again. Has he been quickest in every single session so far in 2025?
Yes, he has. Hasn't he? Yes, he has. Absolutely incredible, isn't it? Dominated Australia, and then, as you say, fastest here as well. And well done to Philip Armstrong, who on X, who has correctly pointed out that the other hat-trick winner, three-time winner, is Danilo Petrucci, and of course that was Cremona last year, so he joined Ray, Toprak and Bautista as a hat-trick winner, and now, of course, this man Buliger as well, making it 5 so far with that 3-race format we've had since the start of 2019.
And the number 5s, Greg, can you name any?
Number 5s, I've been trying to think about that one. My mind's gone blank. Go on.
Oh, we were talking about the Texas Tornado earlier.
Ah, that's a good one, of course. Yeah, go on, keep going.
Giancarlo Falapa.
Oh, Falapa as well. What a star in a Ducati, many wins.
Yanagawa.
Yanagawa as well. Obviously, you're older than me, aren't you? So it's easier to remember.
And I'm sure there's a few others that I've missed as well, so I look forward to seeing the messages in this break.
Tozer loves his trivia, doesn't he? He loves his trivia. I want 40.9 then for Buliger. Just to put that into perspective, the race lap record is a 39.8. So the recent tests here paying off. And Buliger was not happy, Ducati claimed, after the test, and they clearly found something. I do predict a year, though, of a lot of wrangling and arguments in the paddock because of the technical rules. And then the big news of the morning, top rank, no time, as O'Halloran gets the grid. Not bad at all there, considering he never even ridden the bike before in this spec, and gone through the session cleanly. Reminder, at the end of the weekend, after round 2, we might see some changes in terms of the fuel. Are these Ducatis going to be turned down? Well, if they keep up that sort of pace, I think we know the answer, and there's 2 of them who've managed some really good, solid mini race runs there.
Yeah, Top Rank did a 39.5 in the test, just to kind of give some comparison on a soft tyre. But on race trim, Nicola Buliger was super consistent. Yeah, Anton Bassani's not too bad either, but about, what, I'd say about 0.3, 0.4 of a second off of the factory Ducatis. But the other splits, so split 1, down the stop, finish straight down the hill into this fast turn 1, turn 2, the hairpin, before you go down to the hairpin turn 5. And Alvaro Bautista has a slight advantage over the 2 other Ducatis, Andrea Iannone and Yari Montella, inside the top 3 break. This is sector 2.
Oh, we've got a non-Ducati in there. Petrucci leading the way this time from Buliger, and then Locatelli there on the Pata Maxis Yamaha. Here's sector 3.
Yeah, Iannone, Ducati from Bimota, Axel Bassani, less than a 10, so that's pretty impressive from the tight, twisty section in the middle, and the last section, the BMW, not surprisingly.
Well, we saw Michael van der Mark in the slipstream of the Honda, didn't we, of Xavi Vierge, and that definitely helped on the run to the line. We'll be back on air later on.
Yeah, my thanks to the TNT team. The World Supersport's about to start, so we have got to get off air. An amazing start then here to the Portuguese round of the championship. It is Nicola Buliger who is top again. Join us later for more action from free practice 2 at 3 o'clock local time and UK time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.